down where the town started out, down in what they call Old Town. It was down there in my grandpa's first store they built, or he had here in town. Yeah, there's none of the old buildings down there. Because they thought it was going to flood, and it was dangerous to flood. So they thought the thing was to move up onto this bench. See this little drop off right out here? Yeah, where you go down where that pole is out there. There's a little hill that drops off there, down to the bottom. And that was the old river bottom. Now this is way back 500 years ago, the river run around that way. But later on it was out further out there. And that's where the starting the town was, down in that corner down there. But they wanted to, they knew that the supplies was coming from Price to Myton to Fort Duchesne and Vernal, and then Roosevelt was starting to grow. So they knew they needed to make a road from Myton to Roosevelt and to Vernal, rather than to go down through the Badlands here, which was nothing, you know, they'd hook up the town. So they had already had in their mind to build this bridge at the end of Cooper Street here.
Okay.
And when that bridge was left high and dry, why, that was already in the proposals, so they got right on that and built the bridge down here then, the steel bridge. The second bridge in Myton was a steel bridge at the end of Center Street, crossing the Duchesne River. I owned a service station up on the main intersection here in town, the Center and Main Street. And one morning I heard the crash, and a guy later stopped in and told me that a big truck had hit the steel bridge and it collapsed. And it was about 40 below that night. It was colder and cold, and when that truck hit that big steel bridge, it just shattered like glass. All the big beams just busted and down it come. But we had already had the bridge built up on Highway 40, because Highway 40 had skirted town and didn't come through here anymore. So it wasn't that big a loss, except it made quite an impact on my service station up here, because they used to still come through this way. And after that bridge collapsed, why, it pretty well killed the town. There was no highway traffic that you could pick up down in town, you know. But there was one car that went down with the bridge when it collapsed, and they finally, the truck was off of went through the side rail of the bridge and into down onto the river and the ice, and the guy behind him was able to drive on out and get out of there. And he's the one who stopped in and told me that the bridge had collapsed, and he was on it when it went down. They didn't put a blockade on the other side of the river, and they didn't put one on this side until a guy damn near run off the embankment, and then the state come in and put a big pile of dirt in front of it, but they didn't pile any on the other side. And here this guy was coming through, and he had a little one-wheel trailer on the back of his car, and he worked for the oil company doing something, and he had equipment machinery in this little trailer. And he come cruising in, and he seen the road torn up a little bit up on half of Highway 40. He thought, well, they were doing some work on it, so he just boogied on down the road and going along like he always did, and come into Myton and just run right off the edge of the embankment over into the river. Stood on its nose down in the river. Took his cigarettes out of his pocket and threw them over on the bank and waited out. And they had to have a crane come and get his car out of there.